Happy Vlogmas, everybody. It's your girl T, aka the nappy-headed jojoba, here with the first What I Ate Wednesday of Vlogmas 2018. If you didn't already know, I'm doing Vlogmas, and also too as well, each day of the week has a different theme or name that I've come up with to kind of keep things interesting and varied so that we touch all of the different facets of what makes me me, whether we're talking about hair, fitness, beauty, nutrition, other things. So each Wednesday we'll be focusing on something nutritional / dietary as it pertains to me. I figured we may as well kick things off with a bit more fun on this What I Ate Wednesday, because this is a cheat / treat day what I ate. I've actually been very injured for quite some time now. I've had back pain from an old injury that resurfaced, and I've been dealing with it for well over 2 months, and I've been unable to go to the gym in over a month. I'm only bringing this up to let you guys know that I can't really have cheat days or treat days in the way that I normally would because I'm not able to exercise right now. I am seeking professional medical attention for my injuries, but I'm still not cleared to go back to the gym, which means that I have to be super duper careful with my diet, which is extra fun to do at this time of year when there's nothing but cookies and pies and cakes. Even with having to be careful, I'm still able to have treat days here and there, which is really important for making sure that I never feel deprived and exacerbate my sadness over being in constant pain and also not being able to go to the gym. It would just be far too depressing if, on top of all that, I also couldn't have treat meals here and there. But in this case, we had a whole ass treat day. By the by, you'll notice that I say both cheat and treat. I use those terms interchangeably. It's just something that I'm working on a personal level to kind of get rid of that stigma associated with foods that maybe don't necessarily promote the most health for me. Foods like dairy, sugar, grains, things that I know don't help me to feel my best, but also foods that I enjoy from time to time and don't think it's realistic for me to say I'm never gonna have these again. It's just helpful for me to stop calling these foods cheats and calling them treats instead, because that's what they are, rather than trying to vilify them and therefore vilify myself for having them. Not too long ago, I devoted an entire video to explaining how I am able to have treats and cheats like a boss and still continue to lose fat. So I will link that video right here. In it, I showed you basically my normal cheat day protocol where I go through all the things that I like to do to basically mitigate how much damage these less than healthful foods will cause to my body and will slow me down in achieving my goals. Within that video, one thing I talked about was considering, and I know this isn't for everyone because if it's your treat day, you probably don't want to be bothered being in the kitchen, but one of my main tips is to cook your own treats. Or bake, whatever. It's the same drum that I'm always beating when I talk about healthful eating and nutrition in general. When you cook your own meals, it is the only way to know exactly what is in your food and to control what is in your food. So even when we're off-roading a bit and having things that are a little bit more cheeky, a little bit less good for us, it's far better to cook it or bake it yourself because you can make sure that you're using quality ingredients and you can even find ways to avoid incorporating things that are unnecessary. Oftentimes when we buy foods from restaurants, they're often doing things in the kitchen that are straight up reckless. When we're home and cooking for ourselves, we're probably not going to use the insane amounts of fat and salt and things like that. So cooking for ourselves allows us to have a lot more control in that regard, while still enjoying the foods that, are a little bit more suspect. That's why on this particular treat day, I actually cooked everything that I was craving, because I cook most or all of my meals anyway because of the reasons I just outlined, as well as the fact that it just saves a lot of money. So on this treat day, I cooked all of the foods that I was craving that are not necessarily everyday foods, they're more sometimes foods. And I'm also able to get a lot more enjoyment out of it, knowing that I was probably a lot more responsible in the food preparation than it would have been if I had bought it from a restaurant or gotten takeout or something like that. Some of you guys already know that I practice intermittent fasting. I've done at least one video on that in depth so far, so I will link that here. I'm planning to do another update around the 6-month mark, which is actually not that far away, so stay tuned for that. But I decided to break my fast on this day with a breakfast sandwich. I love sandwiches in general. Put anything between bread and I'm probably going to be on board. But a breakfast sandwich has a special place in my heart. There's something that I love so much about just egg, some good sharp cheddar cheese on maybe a croissant, maybe a nice piece of toast, whatever. So delicious, never gets old for me. What I'm using to make mine is a brioche bun. I'm also using 2 pasture-raised eggs, which I am going to poach. Sometimes I like them scrambled, sometimes I like them over medium, and today I just felt like poaching was in order. And I'm also using some grass-fed sharp cheddar cheese. This is white. I always buy white cheddar because I just don't see any point in eating food that's been dyed if I can avoid it. And that's a great case in point of what I was saying earlier about controlling the quality of your ingredients. It is very unlikely that I would be able to go to a restaurant and get grass-fed, undyed cheddar cheese and pasture-raised eggs without paying an arm and a leg at least. I do live in LA, so it probably is possible, but it would definitely be crazy expensive. And then I'm also adding to that 2 strips of bacon. This is sugar-free, paleo-friendly bacon. Again, something I wouldn't necessarily be able to expect if I were buying this from a restaurant. And those were the components. I do cut my strips in half so that they can cook a bit more evenly in the pan. I like my bacon very crispy. While my eggs were poaching, I went ahead and topped the brioche roll with some of the cheese and toasted it in my extremely old, do not roast me for how it looks, I just have not bothered to replace it yet because it still works, toaster oven. Following that, I assembled, and there you go. That was my delicious bacon, grass-fed cheese, pasture-raised eggs on brioche breakfast sandwich. This was a very dairy-heavy treat day, by the way. I don't know what it was, but I was just craving cheese. I mean, I like cheese as much as the next person, but I'm not one of those people who's like fallen out over cheese. I feel like if I could never have cheese again, I might be a little sad about it, but I would move on with my life. But I must have had some sort of deficiency because I was definitely craving cheese on this particular treat day, and it shows up in every instance of me eating in this video. A bit later, as a snack, I had a little bit of that same grass-fed cheddar cheese, just with some water crackers. These are some multi-grain flaxseed water crackers. I got them from Trader Joe's. I don't know what it is, but I just love cheese on a water cracker. It is just so simple and so delicious. I love the crunch and texture of water crackers. Always have, and I'm just basic like that. Moving right along, my last meal of the day, generally speaking, I only eat like 2 main meals per day. This is not just because I do intermittent fasting. That was just sort of the natural way that I seemed to prefer to eat, even well before I ever started doing intermittent fasting. If anything, I used to sometimes eat 3 meals a day because I felt like I should have, BLD, breakfast, lunch, dinner. But left to my own devices, I'm perfectly happy to eat 2 meals and maybe have like a smoothie. It just works a little bit better for me to eat 2 meals a day. Maybe one of these days I'll even try doing the OMAD 1 meal a day. I haven't been able to do that yet because I can't quite hit the calories I need to in 1 meal, but that's another video for another day. For dinner, I really felt like having chicken parmesan. It's one of my favorite dishes ever. I also really love broccoli. Even when I was a kid, I loved broccoli, and I love broccoli just sauteed with garlic. It's so good, as well as eggplant. So that's what I went for dinner. I started off with the chicken breasts. I went ahead and pounded those. The reason I cover them with saran wrap is to keep chicken juice from flying all over my kitchen once I'm pounding them out with the mallet. I like to always pound out chicken breasts with a mallet like this because 1, it gets them to an even thickness so that they cook better, and it also helps to tenderize the meat. Then I went ahead and seasoned it because always season your food, for the love of God. And then I just left the chicken breasts to sit for a while. I had actually seasoned these breasts well before it was time for me to cook them, so they've basically been sitting with the seasoning on them all day, which is always a good thing to do if you have time. Once it was time to actually make the Parmesan, I did opt to fry the cutlets first. It's a treat day. I'm going for it. First, I dredged the breast in almond flour. I like to get my almond flour from the bulk bin, and I always suggest getting things from the bulk bin when you can, not just to save money, but to save environmental waste. After dredging the cutlet in the almond flour, I dipped it in some eggs that I had whisked, and then in some breadcrumbs. I was also careful, and always am careful, to pick breadcrumbs that don't have any sugar in them because, surprise, surprise, people love putting sugar in everything. It can be pretty difficult to find breadcrumbs that don't have sugar in them, but these ones don't. They basically have 3 or 4 ingredients, which is why I chose them. The fewer ingredients, the better. And to those breadcrumbs, I added just a little bit of that Italian seasoning to get even more flavor into the chicken parmesan. I fried the cutlets in unsalted grass-fed butter. Yet again, another way where I'm able to make better choices in my ingredients than what I would probably get from a stranger making the same dish in a restaurant. Once that was done frying, I went ahead and topped it with some jar sauce, which is an abomination to some people, I know. It is very easy to make super delicious marinara sauce, but I was not in the mood to make every single component. And usually if you're buying jar sauce, it's so bland you have to season it more anyway, so it's just like you might as well just make it. But I discovered this brand maybe 2 years ago, and I've been buying their sauces ever since because 1, they don't put any sugar in their sauces, and 2, their sauces are actually very, very well flavored in my opinion for a jar sauce, because I don't necessarily feel the need to add additional seasoning to them unless I'm feeling extra that day. Their sauces are pretty good straight out the jar, which is extremely rare. And then the last element of chicken parmesan is of course cheese. Now what I'm doing is incorrect. Generally you make parmesans, eggplant, chicken, whatever, with mozzarella cheese, which is weird that it's called Parmesan. Rather than mozzarella, I love to use burrata. I love burrata cheese. I feel like I just love the texture and flavor that it gives. So whenever I make chicken parm for myself, I prefer burrata. It's incorrect, it's just what I like, but hey, that's the nice thing about cooking for your own damn self. You can make things as wrong as you like. As I mentioned earlier, I was having some eggplant with that, and I decided to go ahead and parmesanize the eggplant as well because, again, it's treat day, no rules. So I added some of that sauce and the burrata to the eggplant as well for a little bit more constipation, because why not? I gotta say, as much as I enjoy the odd bit of cheese on a treat day, the aftermath of the binding factor it definitely makes me reconsider whether I should ever have it again. TMI? Oh well, too bad. While those were baking in the oven for 20-25 minutes or so, I went ahead and made my broccoli. I steam it first just to get it a little bit softer, probably only 4 minutes, not long at all, just because I don't want it to be too crunchy. I like my broccoli crunchy, but not like raw. So I steam it just a little bit first, and then I go ahead and saute it in a pan with the garlic and whatever seasonings. I usually keep it pretty simple, just some lemon, salt, pepper, and garlic is usually all I need, and it is so good. And here you can see how everything looked once it was done. So in this sitting, I only had half of one of the breasts that I had cooked just because they were so massive. And then I just saved the rest and ate that later. And that is it. That is what I ate on my last treat day. I enjoyed it all thoroughly. I'm looking forward to my next treat day, but again, I have to be a lot more spaced out in terms of not having them too frequently, and more careful until I can get back in the gym, which will hopefully be soon. That is going to do it for this What I Ate Wednesday, but we'll be doing another one of these next week with more focus on foods that I eat on a regular day. But well before then, I will see you guys again because I'll be seeing you tomorrow because it's Vlogmas and I don't get to rest until this is over. Thanks so much for watching. Merry Vlogmas, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now.